Alright everybody, hello and welcome. As always, I'm Shaun. This is the weekend recap. Welcome to the reserve team. Football, week to week, it never stops. There's always new articles, there's always new headlines. We're going to bring a few of those to you today as well in today's episode. Three big headlines that we're leading with this week are Olyroos are going to play Sydney FC in a friendly that we'll talk about further a little bit in a moment. Is Matt Ryan potentially on the outs at Brighton? And discussing a fantastic piece by Lydia Williams celebrating NIDOC Week. In our first headline, it's been announced that the Australia under-23 sides, yes, they're listed as the Olyroos below. Yes, I know that they're only the Olyroos when they're at the Olympics, but let's face it, this is the Australia under-23 team. They're looking to build, they're looking to get in some camps ahead of Tokyo 2021, if that Olympics is still going to go ahead. And they've announced they're going to be playing Sydney FC this coming Thursday, the 12th of November, and then the week after, on Tuesday, the 17th of November, Macarthur FC. We haven't seen that many friendlies for a lot of the different competition sides within the A-League. Some of that is down to the availability of opposition. A lot of different states still aren't allowing interstate travel for games and things like that. A lot of NPL seasons have just finished up. In Victoria, of course, for the Melbourne-based sides, there hasn't been an NPL competition this year with extended lockdown in the area. So really for a lot of these clubs, it's going to be their first real opportunity to play in a friendly competition. And I think for the Australian under-23 side, it's their real first chance to have a camp building towards that 2021 target. There is a danger, I think, in the strength of opposition they've picked. Obviously, they're limited in terms of a big test that they're going to get with the NPL season having just finished in New South Wales, but I kind of question a little bit, and I'm editorialising again here, the wisdom in playing Sydney FC, because if they go out and they get absolutely spanked, I'm not sure what that's going to do to the prospects of the players in that group, both for their selection in the tournament and then also for their overall building and planning process. Maybe they are trying to play higher level opposition so that they do struggle a bit to, keep the ball and get broken down and whatever else. The other side of that coin is if they do really well, maybe they are in fantastic shape. Maybe it is a good calling card for the under-23 side. We spoke in Weekend Recap last week about the PFA documentation relating to minutes played by younger players, and players under 23 are underrepresented in the league itself. Most players are above that age bracket, and even Sydney FC's lineup doesn't really have that many under 23 talents in their strongest possible 11, in their starting lineup. Yes, they've got the likes of Joel King, Trent Bahuja, a few others, but the reality is not many of those players actually start in their starting 11. By all means, Sydney FC fans, correct me in the comment section below if you think I'm incorrect. But it will be an interesting juxtaposition to see how Australia's best young talents effectively perform against what is currently Australia's best side, the reigning defending premiers and champions in the A-League itself. The first game against Sydney FC will take place at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium in Kogarah. There are limited tickets available, which I think are sold out now at the time of recording. So if you can, jump on TicketX, see if you can get a copy of a ticket. Of course, don't support scalpers because that's ridiculous, but it is also going to be available live streamed on the MyFootball Live app. It's also going to be on KO Sports. Simon Hill has been brought back in like a short-term contract deal to commentate both fixtures, which is always fantastic to hear his wonderful dulcet tones. The Macarthur game taking place next Tuesday, that one's going to be behind closed doors, so there is no attendance from a crowd perspective, but again, it's also going to be available on the MyFootball Live app, on KO Sports, and a couple of other streaming services as well. And I believe for the first time, Macarthur are going to be streaming it live on their Facebook page, which is fantastic to see. We want to see more social media use from Macarthur. We've spoken about that in previous weeks on Weekend Recap. If they can get a friendly out there, a lot of people that potentially didn't go to their first friendly because of the inclement weather and the NPL finals taking place that day, this may potentially be their first time to see their lineup in action, to see what their side's going to look like, to see the style of play that they're going to be implementing throughout the course of the season. I'm very excited to see it because they are a big unknown in the A-League season. Hopefully, we get a little bit more of an insight as to how Macarthur's going to shape up by their pre-season performance against the Olyroos. From local football over to the Premier Division, and is Matt Ryan potentially on the outs at Brighton? He was previously for the game against Tottenham that took place early last week, left out of the squad. Now, Graham Potter, the manager at Brighton, did highlight that these were for tactical reasons and that he needed a breather as the explanation for dropping him from the starting 11. His replacement, 22-year-old Spaniard Robert Sanchez, didn't do terribly, but they did lose the game 2-1 to Tottenham. And again, this is speculation from a few different people. Mark Schwartz has made some great comments over the course of the weekend. A couple of different people have speculated as to why he's been dropped out of the lineup. That potentially the writing is on the wall as far as Graham Potter's expectations and how he rates Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan hasn't been a second choice keeper at Brighton at any point. He came in as the number one and effectively started pretty much every game since then. This was his first bench role in his time at the club. Now, during the off-season, Emiliano Martinez, who eventually moved to Aston Villa, there was a bid placed by Brighton that was rejected. He didn't end up making that move. We've already seen Graham Potter, dispatch Aaron Moy because he didn't rate him in his tactical plans, even though Brighton haven't necessarily set the world on fire in the Premier Division. They're not bad. They're not playing terrible football or anything like that. But if they had Aaron Moy, an additional midfielder midfield playmaker to try and unlock a defence, to try and find that final pass, would they be in a better position? The speculation in the piece that Mark Schwarzer referenced is that potentially Graham Potter isn't happy with the way Matt Ryan's performed over their start to the season, but in reality, having watched a few of their games, it's not necessarily just down to him. They are very expansive in the way they play. They get their wing backs flying forward. It does leave their defence in isolation sometimes, and it's not the quickest defence in the world. I think it would be very harsh to look at their overall squad and say that it's the goalkeeper's fault. He hasn't made any clangers, he hasn't had any huge issues, but they have conceded quite regularly in quite a few of their games. So it probably doesn't bode well for Matt Ryan that Graham Potter has previously bid on other goalkeepers, have been unsuccessful in those bids. It's probably not the best sign either that against Tottenham, a very good side in the division, that was the game that they decided to rest him in and effectively hand a debut to a player that has never made a minute's appearance in the Premier League at all. Potentially, this could see Matt Ryan linked with a move away from Brighton and Hove Albion during the January transfer window. There are quite a few different sides who I think could use a good goalkeeper. There are quite a few different sides higher up the table that I think could use strengthening in that area. Shout out to Leeds. Like, if we could get someone playing under Marcelo Bielsa, they could maybe use a keeper. Meslier's great, but he's a young prospect. Maybe they need a bit more stability. Maybe they need a bit more experience in the Premier Division. And of course, Leeds have a fantastic record of signing Australian talent and giving them playing time in the Premier League. So potentially, maybe that's like a dream type situation for Matt Ryan. All we want to see though from the Australian football fans, Australian football public, if I can speak on their behalf, just don't go to China, Matt. Don't do anything silly. Just stay in the Premier League as long as you can. Still only 27. His best goalkeeping years you would think are still to come, still ahead of him. He's moving into his prime period. Mark Schwarzer kept at the Premier Division level to the age of 40. It remains to be seen if Matt Ryan will have the same longevity, but he's capable. He's arguably the best Socceroo player that we have in the squad at the moment. He needs to be playing football regularly. He needs to be playing in a top flight league as well, like the Premier Division. So hopefully, benefit of the doubt, Graham Potter just was resting him for tacticus or whatever else, and we do see him continuing in goal for Brighton. But if there is a chance that he's dropped between now and January, hopefully he finds the right move that gets him consistently in the starting lineup, playing regular football, because it's the best thing that could potentially happen for the Socceroos as well. And in our main story, there's a fantastic article by Lydia Williams celebrating NIDOC Week over on the Australian Olympic Teams page. Of course, NIDOC Week celebrating Aboriginal and Islander backgrounds all across the week. There are some fantastic stories in and around sport. There are some fantastic stories in and around football. And Lydia really details in great depth her journey from the red dirt of Katanning in Western Australia to Canberra, where she first fell in love with football, her relationship with her father, his impact on her life and her career, all the way up. And she is one of the Matildas playing at an elite level with Arsenal in the English Super League. We do want to see her getting more appearances for that side. And she really is a trailblazer. The hope is that we see, not just for NIDOC Week, but celebrating all throughout the course of the year, different stories from Aboriginal Islander communities about how they've gotten involved with football, more representation in our international sides as well. And for Lydia, there's some fantastic accounts from different coaches that she's had throughout her period, from teammates, opposition, just generally painting her as being a fantastic person. We wish her all the best, of course, and for all of our Matildas, we really want to see them enjoying their football, getting more exposure, telling their stories as much as humanly possible in the build-up to the 2023 World Cup. And we're grateful that NIDOC Week has shined a light on someone that potentially goes underrepresented in the Matilda squad, because she doesn't score that many goals. She's not playing regularly at the moment, but is, really one of the world-class talents that we have in this fantastic generation of Matildas. And for me and everyone at the reserve team, we of course wish her all the best in her continued journey, and advise everyone to go and check out some of the fantastic NIDOC Week articles, including this one by Liana Buratti. Full links will be down in the description below. And of course, there's always a great collection of fantastic articles that you can find at thereserveteam.com.au. We've got a variety of things coming out this week, including LGBTQIA+ representation, analysis of the A-League's average age, as we spoke about with the Olyroos setup. Our YouTube podcast out there, shout out to that one because I'm on it. But it really should be the first place that you go and check out for all your information relating to the A-League, the W League, the Socceroos, the Matildas, the All Whites, the Silver Ferns, anything relating to Australia and New Zealand football, we have you covered at the reserve team. So make sure it's the first place you check out for all of your news. As far as this episode's concerned and the YouTube channel itself, if you want to help celebrate the growth of the channel and continue to bring you this fantastic content week after week, you can drop a like on this video. Helps us get higher in YouTube search results when people look for Australian and New Zealand football content. You can also subscribe to this channel to be kept up to date on weekend recap, our tier list videos that we're doing, the Reserve Team podcast. We've got a whole bunch of fantastic content coming your way in the build up to the A-League and W League seasons as well that you're not going to want to miss. But more than anything, from me, from the entire team at thereserveteam.com.au, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all again next time.